Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest episode of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Elyachar, the chief content producer and writer of JakesTake.com, a pop culture entertainment news website. Before we get started, if you're watching this on social media, please give us a 5-star review, and if you're listening to us on our audio channels, please give us a 5-star review and please subscribe to the podcast. I really appreciate it, guys. Okay, so our next guest today is a Billboard charting top 40 record producer, mixer, remixer, and DJ, and he's currently touring with the Backstreet Boys on their DNA tour. So please help me welcome DJ Lux to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. It's an honor.
It's a privilege to talk with you, DJ Lux. I really appreciate taking the time in your schedule to talk with me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to do it.
Awesome. So let's get started. So when did you get interested in music, and how did that passion evolve into desire to pursue a career in the recording industry?
Sure. So, music for me started really young. I was probably 10 years old or so, and my mother was given a piano, an old piano, and they didn't like the smell of it. It was like an old musty, player piano from the early 1900s. And of course, being, a 10-year-old boy, they said, well, we'll put it in Brandon's room for now. We'll figure out a place for it. And I just started playing music. I started poking around on the piano, and that was kind of it's kind of funny to say, but that summer that I got the piano, I sat down. I didn't know any pianist music, but my mom had this Yanni CD. We'll get there later, but so she had Yanni live at the Acropolis, and that summer I learned how to play the entire album of Yanni live at the Acropolis. I played by ear. To this day, I still can't read music. I've never gone to school or taken any lessons for music specifically, anyways. And so that's kind of where it started. And it snowballed from there. My sister would want a violin. I'd learn to play her violin. And then she wanted a guitar. I learned how to play her guitar. And then I wanted drums. And 30 years later, some crazy way, I've been very blessed and lucky to continue doing this.
That's amazing. And first of all, by that whole CD by memory, holy smokes, that's incredible. And number one, number two, my brother Aaron also does that. He also is a very learner. He learned how to play trombone, mastered that. He learned how to play the piano, mastered that. Learned how to play guitar, and then also the tuba as well. He actually marched in the Pride of Arizona marching band for all 4 years of college.
Oh, wow.
So,
that's impressive.
Yeah, it is. And any instrument that he touched, it's incredible that he has rhythm with that and determination. And like I sang in choir from 5th grade to senior year of high school, so I do have a little music in me, but not enough.
Sure. Well, it's ironic that singing is the one thing I can't do. I produce vocal groups, as we'll get into later. I've done remixes for Backstreet Boys, and as you referenced, I produced 98 Degrees. So I hear vocalists. I can produce vocals and arrange vocals. I can't sing a note, not one note.
Same with me. Like my singing's gotten great. I do karaoke, but I would be buzzed on America's Got Talent.
Oh, well, we'd be together. You and I, after America's Got Talent buzz, we'll go hit the karaoke bar together and do our best, right?
Absolutely. So, speaking of 98 Degrees, in addition to them, you've worked with several incredible superstars such as Bruno Mars, Beyonce, and Jennifer Lopez. So, what were some of the lessons that you learned from them that helped you grow as a professional in this industry?
So, that experience, I'll speak to Beyonce specifically. Bruno was like a writing camp writer scenario. Beyonce specifically, I interned under a man named Jim Caruana, who produced all of her vocals, and he was producing her vocals. He was doing Jay-Z, he was doing Kanye, he was doing a ton of stuff at Sony Studios when it was still in New York and open and functioning, the way it was 10 or 15 years ago. And the thing I learned from those experiences was work ethic. And this is something that, being on tour now, it's the project that I have has some younger artists in it. And we've had these conversations a lot lately about the new generation versus where I came from in music. And I came from the generation of music where if you're not putting 100 hours a week into it, do you really want it? Are you really going to go for it? And that was some of the biggest takeaways, specifically on the I Am Sasha Fierce album, just to see like there was nothing good enough, and when it was amazing, we had to keep going just on the off chance that we might find something even a little more special, you know. And that work ethic really um, built the foundation of me going down the road when I started making my albums, and I started producing records for rock acts, you know, modern rock acts. And when I did very well, I started to understand the details. It's not just about getting the music right and feeling good in the room. There's details that you really have to pay attention to because, you know, there's no cutting corners. And so I guess in a long way, I'm saying that's definitely what I took from me there, because they're the hardest working individuals I've ever been around.
And here's the thing. I grew up from late elementary school to college when Britney and the Backstreet Boys and Beyonce and Jay-Z and Kanye were all starting out, and now they're household names.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's changed a lot. I think some of it is that the processing, even of itself, has changed a lot. And I'm Sasha Fierce. I think Beyonce cut like 70 songs for that album to come down to what that album was. You know, and now you cut 10 or 15 and you pick the best 6, maybe, you know, or 5. And then the digital realm has changed the environment, you know, so it's definitely a different process. But I respect both schools of thought. But I'm glad I went through it, though. I can tell you that for sure.
Yeah, and I'll have to be honest here. It's very difficult with with my generation because I still gravitate towards a Bruno Mars and Ed Sheeran, plus people I grew up with. But it's very hard for me to accept people like Olivia Rodrigo, and it's been in like a Francesco Yates, or even a Billie Eilish at times.
Yeah. Well, the thing about those artists, you know, music is always going to continue evolving. When I got into music, we were using tape decks and steel reel to reel. We were using something called an ADAT, which looked like a VHS tape. And you know, the evolution of the computers and the way music is made, that process is now creating different artists because they can do different things. So I have a lot of respect for the new generation coming up. They're selling out arenas, they're selling lots of albums and getting lots of streams, and so I embrace that. But I'm a hybrid. Actually, I'm kind of in the middle. I'm not the old school, hard nosed, you know, analog guy. As the room I'm sitting in right now, we've got 4 laptops out, you know, writing new music. There's not one live physical instrument in the room right now. It's all, you know, synths and MIDI and keys and things. So they've been able to evolve, and I think it's important that musicians and technology has evolved in the process of creating music, because what it's really about is the listener, right? Like the fan, and the way they're getting music is changing and evolving, and it's quicker now. So the process of taking 12, 18, 24 months to put an album together, holy cow, if you took 18 months to do an album, I mean, unless you're a major star that has that real estate in the fan base, but someone like me who's relatively unknown, that's putting out music and trying to come up as an artist, not just as a producer, as quick as a fan can get the music in their hands, if I take 6 months or a year to come out with a new single, they've found 15 other DJs like me already that are putting records out. So I respect their new process. I think it's instrumental. Pardon the pun.
And I gotta agree, because the thing is, it feels like there's like, once you hit that plateau of an Adele level or a Lizzo level or a Beyonce level, you can go back and do like at least 3 years until the fans say, "Hey, where's that new music?"
Yep, absolutely. Well, you know, I can speak a little bit about that, you know, to the sense of Justin Timberlake. Justin and I are managed by the same guy. Johnny Wright manages Justin, Incubus, myself, AJ McLean, who we're going to get to in a minute, and Francesco Yates, and so I see that it's kind of interesting to see it from behind the curtain a little bit, because I see and hear the Justin process, and his fans are so vibrant and loyal that process does take the time, because Justin has a certain level of perfection that is required, because he's just a perfectionist and an amazing talent, but his fans also expect that out of him as well. And so when something comes out on an artist like that, it's just going to be incredible, you know. So I think you're definitely right on the time frame.
Absolutely. And besides, Justin can go from one thing like Can't Stop This Feeling to an incredible collaboration with Chris Stapleton, like Say Something, which
Yep.
gave me chills and still gives me chills thinking about that.
Oh yeah, Justin. Not just because we were on the same roster and on the same team. Like before, I was with Johnny. Justin to reincarnate and maybe that's even the wrong word to reinvent his professional persona, his career over and over and over. I mean, you look at when he came out of NSYNC and the first album Justified and all the things that were going on then, and then that to the Timbaland collaboration that gave you Sexy Back and those records to 2020 to Man. I mean, you just look at the evolution. It's like what can he not do? Really, what can't he do?
I would love to hear a Justin Timberlake opera album.
Yeah. I don't know about that one. I don't know. That may be the one. I don't know.
Awesome. So let's get talking about like some of the challenges that you face breaking into this music industry, and how did you overcome those obstacles?
The obstacles of breaking into the music industry.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough one for me. I don't know that I've never done anything different. So I never really felt like I was breaking in. Just felt like I was carving out my space and just finding it. I don't remember a specific moment where I was like standing outside the door and nobody would let me in. I hate to put it that way, because I always found, even if I didn't have a label deal or didn't have a legendary management company like I do, or whatever those things are, those components I have now, I always was so content in just making great music, or what I felt was great music, and delivering that to the fans and creating music that I hoped for 3.5 minutes, no matter what was going on in your life, you could forget about the stress or the drama or the bill that needed to be paid or whatever it is, and just enjoy the music I create. So I think I've found so much contentment in creating that I'd never, even though I'm sure looking back on it now in hindsight, I really was locked out quite a bit. I never felt the stress of that because playing a local bar for 100 of my closest friends, or being on the Backstreet Boys tour, have all been fairly similar in principle, fairly similar experiences to me. Does that make sense?
It does, it
Um,
does. And it's amazing that you can do both ends, because not a lot of artists can say that, hey, I'm in addition to, you should come at the bar saying, hey, you should come and pay a little extra, go see me at the Backstreet Boys.
right, right, yeah, and that's kind of the beauty of being a producer that DJs, is because I feel like I can, in this chameleon sort of way, fit into a lot of different scenarios. So that part has been handy. But the music business is not easy, and it gets harder every single day. Um, so something else to uncover too is that I've had the majority of my adult life I've struggled with my weight, and those are typical things that, as a performer, as an artist, that some people kind of look down on. Some people look down on an artist that doesn't have their image that's just so or perfect or exactly Hollywood or whatever that is. And I think that there's probably times in my career that I could look back and say, if I had paid more attention to those details, then maybe I would have been able to get that opportunity or this opportunity. But I walked away from that scenario going, you know what? I want to be healthy, but I'm me. I'm just me. And if I gotta look a certain way or say a certain thing to squeeze into that scenario, then is it really built for who I am in my core, anyways? You know?
Yeah, like the thing is, I also struggle with my weight as well. And like, yes, I exercise and yes, I walk, but however, I'm ingrained with a chocolate DNA, for a lot of chocolate in my DNA. I am not going to
Sure.
change anything to be like a Instagram model with an 8 pack or something like that. I rather be myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And luckily for me, the team around me has really embraced me for me. We talk about these things pretty openly, and I want to be healthy, and I am working on the way, especially out here on the road. We're very fortunate to eat well. Backstreet Boys crew and catering is amazing to us, I will say. I'm addressing it, and it's working well. But it's good to be around a team that really understands me and embraces who I am at my core and what I'm trying to achieve, not just Am I wearing the right shoes? Do I have the right brands on, or those things? It's been a great experience for me to be with the people I'm with.
And for me, it's I value the material, like the
Yeah,
songs, like the tracks, and the personality of the person, rather than what they're wearing.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And something about we were talking about the younger generation, in the way music is created now. I think in an era where an artist's life is broadcast on all social media so often, I think the authenticity now is more important than ever. I'm 40 years old. I'll just say I'm 40, right? So I remember in the 90s when I wanted to know about Pearl Jam or whoever it was, Belle Biv DeVoe or whatever was going on in music. You saw the magazine, but you kind of knew that there was something behind the scenes that was making sure that that was a good look for the act, whatever it was. And now, now when you can see all the mistakes, in the real, I think fans really embrace authenticity and just embrace, as long as you're comfortable with you, the fans will be comfortable with you. That's something I've also learned in this process too.
Yeah, I totally agree because the thing is, as a podcaster and a journalist or something like that, it took people like Howard Stern or Barbara Walters or Katie Couric to get into, or Oprah even, to get those juicy personal details out of them. Now, today, we are basically watching them live their lives.
Oh yeah, right out there in the open. There are no secrets.
Awesome. So let's move on from this and talk about the origin
Mhm.
story of all the cool kids and how you
Sure.
and AJ McLean came up with that.
So AJ and I were working in the studio together. I produced a lot of his country album when he was doing his country effort, of which we were very proud of. I think AJ sang his butt off, and he had a lot of fun doing it. I know we had a lot of fun doing it. But we found this common ground, when I talked to him about what I would like to do, becoming a DJ, and sort of in the vein, if you will, of DJ Khaled, where I'm a record producer, I know people, and maybe some of those people would hop on my records someday. And he's like, "Man, that's really cool." He's like, "I've been thinking about like a Chainsmokers-esque sort of project too." And so I said, "Well, let me put some music together. Let's just try it. Let's see what happens." And we shot a promotional video, and it just snowballed from there. And 4 years later, we've had a lot of really great opportunities. We've headlined Vegas. We've specifically the Westgate International. We've gone on a couple little tours. AJ and I have, Midwest and kind of East Coast things, and put some music out, and it's been great. It's been a really good conduit. And fast forward, 4 years later, here I am opening the Backstreet Boys tour, which is an unbelievable once in a lifetime opportunity. Like I'm 2 weeks in now, and I still can't believe that tomorrow night I'm going to go open up for Backstreet Boys, and I've already done it 10 times. It's just incredible. I'm so grateful.
For me, I totally agree because the thing is, for me, the Backstreet Boys are always one of my all-time favorite boy bands. And the thing is, I grew up with their self-titled album and Millennium, one of my all-time favorite records of growing up to this day. If I ever release the albums that inspired me growing up, Millennium will be on it. And like
Yeah,
songs like Shape of Your Heart and I Want It That Way, Larger Than Life, Everybody Backstreet's Back, As Long as You Love Me, This Is
yeah,
Us, Bigger, In a World Like This, and Drowning. These are songs that are ingrained in my mind.
yeah. Absolutely. Well, the thing that really struck me is when I was building my set, I went through the Backstreet Boys catalog just to get a good understanding. I was a fan when they came out, of course, in the mid 90s and through the early 2000s. My parents bought every single Backstreet Boys CD ever released. And my dad was a huge fan. And going through, I was like, oh, I remember that. I remember that. I remember that. But being there at their show, when we're loading out the back, and we kind of do the walk around, and we love to get out and talk to the fans, and I hear these songs. I'm like, 2.5 hours, and I know every single song that they do in a 2.5 hour show. How many artists still touring, selling 20,000 tickets a night, are going to play 2.5 hours? And it doesn't feel like 2.5 hours. It's so amazing because it just goes hit after hit after hit after hit. You're like, they're the greatest ever. They're the most legendary boy band. No disrespect to my other clients and my other friends, but I mean, let the record show, the statistics show they are significant, really significant.
In the Backstreet Boys growing up, I remember when you say that because the thing is, one of the finest memories I have of watching with my family as Backstreet Boys invaded TRL with Carson Daly and having seen all those hundreds of thousands of teenagers screaming closed down Times Square to hear them perform.
Yeah, it was pandemonium. You know, it was just absolute pandemonium, and it's not changed. Let me tell you. I mean, the fans are fierce and loyal. It's incredible. It's great to watch.
Please tell AJ and Howie and Brian and Nick and Kevin that I give my best to them because I truly admire all five of them and they've been a huge part of my life and also part of my family's life as well.
Absolutely, I'd be glad to do that.
Awesome. So speaking of the Backstreet Boys, and what is it? And like I know we talked about that, but is it so? How has the audience accepted you, or like have you like? Is it hard like saying, "Hey, I can't bring the song in," or can you actually use songs that they're going to be incorporating in their set lists?
No, I can't play any Backstreet Boys records. In fact, I kind of stayed away from most of that period of boy band era. I stay away from NSYNC. I don't play any Backstreet. I don't play any '98. And it's nothing really. They certainly didn't tell me not to do it. I just felt like, you know, the fans that have been there, they know all those songs. They've heard the songs. So when I went into it, I thought, what about all the songs that we remember from that era that were major hits that we don't hear every day? You know, if you go to a 98 Degrees show, you're going to hear the 98 Degrees hits. You know, you remember all the NSYNC hits, Backstreet Boys hits. So what can we do that's going to continue that journey back in time for the fans that are there? And so what we did was, you know, we came up with like Hip Hop Hooray and a Jay-Z remix that I've done, and different things like that that really incorporate, you know, a nod to that era that was so great, that created such great music and the legacy of these fans. So I think that overall the fans, I believe we feel really well accepted, if I may say that, you know, humbly but accurately, that I think the show makes a lot of sense. And when we walk out into the crowd after our set, because we love to come down to the pit and see everybody, we take pictures and sign autographs from the moment we step in till Backstreet Boys go on. So we're very happy with that. The other thing too is we get a lot of interaction. Backstreet Boys fans, they, like I said, they're fierce and loyal fans. So we're not just taking pictures in the shows. We have people messaging us on Instagram. All of us, everybody involved in the show, messaging us on Instagram. We get dozens of messages after every single show. Love you guys. Where are you next? What's going on? Da da da. And that's you know, that's a great moment because we have really, really big shoes to fill. And for Backstreet Boys to ask me to come and take this opening spot in front of them is a huge honor because these guys hold their show like to the nines. It is spotless, perfect, incredible. And so that kind of, you know, the first night, I'll admit, we were all really nervous because we know the level of performance Backstreet Boys concerts are. And we felt confident in our show, but what were the fans gonna, you know, how were they gonna react to a DJ and a drummer and an MC and that kind of thing? And overall, I can't say enough how happy we are to be playing in front of some of the most amazing fans in the world. You know.
That's amazing. And I love hearing that story because it makes me feel so happy for them, for you, for the Backstreet Boys, and for the fan base.
Absolutely, yeah, it's great.
I would love to talk about Little Heartbreaker. I've listened to it literally like at least 10 times.
Thank you.
And it features Air and Space, so it's a really good song. And can you describe the story to my audience for me?
Yeah, so Little Heartbreaker is it's a funky dance summer record, feel good record about whoever the little heartbreaker is in your life, about the person that you just absolutely can't live without. You know, somebody that that you know is significant, and rather than making it an angst feeling, you know, hurtful record, we wanted to make people feel good about, you know, being in love, because love is great. And so that record, of course, takes a personal spin for me because, you know, I have an incredible wife. I have a wife and three kids that I love dearly. You know, there's always these images of, the person that's really got your infatuation, which is her. Aaron Space being the guy who sang on the record. He's out with me right now. He's my MC for the show and performs that song live with me night in and night out. And he's one of my best friends, actually. So it was a really cool collaboration between the two of us to make that all happen.
Awesome. So speaking of collaborations, who are your ideal collaborators? The singers, the songwriters, the producers, the musicians, and how would they enhance your sound, DJ Lux?
Oh, wow. My ideal collaborators. Well, I think one of the collaborators I've had the most fun with and have come up with some of my best work with yet is an artist named Francesco Yates, who's also out on tour with us. You may remember him from his hit Sugar, How'd You Get So Fly?
Oh, yeah.
That's Francesco. He has a new single out called Jimmy, and which is a brilliant record I absolutely love. And he and I have been collaborating off and on for about 4 years. So I think he's definitely one of my ideal, someone that I haven't worked with yet. I'm a huge Ryan Tedder fan. I love Ryan Tedder, everything he does. So I think that would be like a bucket list experience for me. I think Ryan would be great. And I'm always looking for other things too. Some maybe the not obvious things. I know Calvin Harris and those guys collaborate with lesser known DJs. I would really like to collaborate with an artist or feature that can pull me a little deeper into the EDM world, the pop EDM world. I love the roots that I've got with the Backstreet Boys camp and the pop fans in those camps. But I would eventually like to also move into festival work and kind of that Kygo-esque sort of manner, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and also I'm also thinking David Guetta, and not to mention Zed too.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge fan of Zed. Love Zed.
Yeah, I love his True Colors with Kesha, and his 24 365 song with Katy Perry are still great songs to this day.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it's great work. It'll live long, that's for sure.
And I've always got to say, Sia's Titanium, and then When Love Takes Over with Kelly Rowland, still my all-time favorite jams from David Guetta.
Yeah. He was definitely the predecessor. Now we've got Marshmello. That new Marshmello Jonas Brothers record is I can't tell you how many times I've listened to it. Probably an unhealthy amount.
And you mentioned the Chainsmokers. I gotta say, their collaboration with Five Sauce with Who Do You Love still rocks the house.
Yep, it does. Yeah, it's special things.
Absolutely. So we got to start writing down a conversation. So what are some of your favorite social media platforms?
Well, I'm an Instagram guy. I am. I love it. You can find me at official_DJ Lux. So for Instagram, my Facebook handle is the same. You won't see me on there as much, but Instagram for sure. Again, official_DJ Lux. And then for DSPs, you can find me on all the usual suspects: Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, of course.
Awesome. And one last question: are you ready for it?
I'm ready for it.
Alrighty. So if you had a chance to meet with musicians who want to work with you, what advice would you share with them before you get into the recording studio?
Musicians that want to work with me, what advice would I give them? Preparation and open-mindedness. Know your craft, know where you're going, and be ready for adjustments. Take criticism well, because at the end of the day, all we want is what makes a great song. When you walk into the studio with me or anybody that I work with, Francesco, the list goes on and on and on. The ego and the pride stops at the door. We want to make the best song for the listener, no matter whose idea or whose lyric or whose chord, doesn't matter. We're going to make a killer song, and that's what we're going to do. So open-mindedness is a huge thing for me.
And just one final reminder, remind me again, social media and music locations.
Yeah, absolutely. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, official_DJ Lux. And you can find me on all major DSPs, Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon. And that list goes on. There's a lot of them.
Awesome. And speaking of a lot of places, if you missed an episode of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar Podcast, visit our channels on Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Speaker, and Spotify. It's Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar, JACOB Are you on social media? Because I'm on social media too. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Jacob Elyachar, JACOBELYACHAR, DJ Lux, Jakes-Take.com is celebrating its 11th anniversary this year.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome, and thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, have a good one, everybody. Goodbye.